Well, good afternoon. It's Mary Bartos, or whatever time in the world it is for you, with Bartos Group of Premier Plus Realty, and with my co-host Cheryl Stokes of New American Funding. Hello, Cheryl, for our
Hello, Mary. Good afternoon.
housing update of February 2021, babe.
Another month. Who can believe it?
No, we can't. And, we always love to talk and give you some relevant information about what's new. And this month, we're going to talk about 2021 trends as we see them already, and then the top 7, not 5, not 10, but 7 questions for you to talk through. So let's just jump to it. Cheryl, I'm going to share my screen, which is always an interesting thing for me to do on the technology, right? And then we're going to share this, and then we're going to go from the beginning. Let's see if we can
There we go.
Can we make it happen? How's it look?
Looks good.
Okay, fabulous. Well, so let's talk about this. Our housing update. Well, we all know, we just talked a little bit about that. Let's move to the next slide. Potentially, Cheryl, I love it when things don't work well for me, don't you?
Technology is not my friend ever.
Hello. All right, I got to hide this thing, I think is what I got to do, Cheryl. Every month we have a little bit of a hiccup here. Okay.
And then it goes straight.
Phew, I'm so glad it's working. So 2021 trends, people are asking us in the trenches here as we help them through decisions on whether to buy or sell. Well, what's really happening right now? Because perception isn't always what's happening. Cheryl, would you agree with that?
I would, yes.
Yep. And so, if I look at what's happening, excuse me, I bounced that. Apparently I'm a little trigger happy here. What I love about Ali Wolf, the chief economist from Zonda, said, some people will feel comfortable listing their home during the first half of 2021. Others will want to wait until the vaccines are widely distributed. This suggests more inventory will be for sale in late 2021 and into the spring selling season of 2022. Well, Cheryl, would you agree that we're seeing this right here and now in Southwest Florida?
I have these questions quite often, and I get a lot of responses are, as soon as I get my vaccine, let's wait a little bit longer. People are, they're getting more comfortable with the world as it stands, but they really do kind of want to get their vaccines and have that just last little bit of safety in their minds.
Yeah, without a doubt, and when something else to consider, because here in a second home market, for a lot of our market, and then clearly we have, the standard primary market as well. Look what happened in 19, about 6% of people worked from home. And the forecast for 2022 is double that, 12%. But in 20 and in 21, wow, that's significant. We went up to 21% in 20. And a forecast of this year, 2021, is 18% that can work from home. Well, who doesn't want to work from home in a place where it's warm and beautiful, Cheryl? What do you think?
Exactly. Where, when you are not working, you can walk to the beach. I mean, that makes a big difference.
Just saying, right?
And even with the slight reduction, I think companies are determining what the right balance is for the number of people in office and out of office as far as daily work. So it makes sense that it's going to move a little bit, but I think it's a trend that's here to stay.
Agreed. I totally agree. Now, Cheryl, read this one and what you think about this.
New home sales activity, both mortgage applications and home sales, ran at a pace considerably ahead of 2019, showing the ongoing strong growth in housing demand and new residential construction. And that fits with what we're seeing. We're seeing a 14% increase year over year. So it makes perfect sense. There's an increase in home buying currently. And it's continuing into 2021.
Yeah, without a doubt. So on to the juicy part of this, Cheryl, our top 7 questions. So question number 1, I get this in a lot of different flavors. Am I at the top of the market? Is it going to drop? Is it affordable, right? So the analysts use the word affordable, and how they define that is an increase in wages and a reduction in interest rate.
Correct.
Okay. So affordability comes in this slide, and look at this goodness of, when you look at over here from 20, well, let me explain this, because you might think, wow, back in 1990, it was most affordable because the number was lowest. No, on this chart, it's the highest number is affordability.
Correct.
So you can see here in, what is that, 12 at 197, whatever those 197 units are, it was the most affordable. But look what's happening in today, in 2020. We're really, really affordable. We're tied between, 2019 and 20. Oh, Cheryl, I'm gonna have to get my glasses on. 2013 and 2015, right? And 16, when we were in the midst of, a recession.
Right. And I think the difference is, and some would say that we are at the best level of affordability ever. Today's reporting is weekly earnings are up another 5% year over year. So I think the difference here is that the affordability is there, but also that it's not buying distressed properties. This is affordability in a normal, ordinary home purchase circumstance. And this is one of my favorite topics, because when you look at interest rates and potentially increasing home prices, last year, 2019, 2 years ago now, it is 2021. So in 2019, a purchase of $327,000 approximately had an interest rate on average across the United States of 3.75%. Currently, a home at $350,000 is at an average price of 2.75%. So your housing price has increased, but your interest has decreased by a full percentage point, which nets you a home payment of $70 less than in 2019 per month. So even though you've paid a little bit more, your down payment's gone up a small amount percentage-wise, it is more affordable, and you have another $70 a month in affordability on that same home.
Wow. And that's just from 19. And so if it's more affordable, that question, begs of, are we at the height? My vote is no. You?
I don't think we're at the height.
Yeah.
No.
Right. Oops, we're going backwards. Here I go again. I got all excited with the no, we're not the height. Okay, so how's inventory? I'm going to tackle that one, Cheryl. I look at months of supply of inventory, and this is in Southwest Florida, overall Naples market, Marco Islands area, Estero, Fort Myers. I didn't include Bonita because I couldn't do that number on this slide. But look at this, Cheryl. We're all at 3 months or under. Marco has the highest amount of months of inventory of 3.1, but I think that's more because there's some brackets and types of houses aren't moving quite as quickly as others. But, my goodness, we're down to, a 2-month supply in certain markets. Unbelievable.
Yes, and our reporting is overall industry-wide, inventory's down 42%.
Yeah.
Huge.
Crazy. Overall in Naples, 66.7%. Marcos.
Everybody wants to come here and live.
Yeah. We need some inventory. So if you're thinking about selling, we want to tell you that this is a great time to sell. We can't think of a better time. So Cheryl, question, is this going to be 2008 all over again?
No.
Yeah, I vote now no as well. So you want to go ahead and read this from Mark Fleming?
Sure. Many still bear scars from the Great Recession and may expect the housing market to follow a similar trajectory in response to the coronavirus outbreak. But there are distinct differences that indicate the housing market may follow a much different path. While housing led the recession in 2008 and 2009, this time it may be poised to bring us out of it. And I would say that absolutely has to be true with the volume of housing sales last year and how we're starting 2021. If you think of the number of businesses that home purchases support, I think it's one of the things that's keeping the economy in better shape than it could have been.
Well, and he said that in March. And look, Cheryl, what he said most recently. Same guy.
Same guy. Rising interest rates reduce house buying power and affordability, but are often a sign of a strong economy, which increases the home buyer demand. By any historic standard, today's mortgage rates remain historically low and will continue to boost house buying power and keep a purchase demand robust. And that's what we're projecting as well.
Yeah, that's what I see. So that question of, am I at the top? Can I afford it? What does that look like? I think we got room, guys. So this is your area of expertise, Cheryl. Are interest rates rising?
They are potentially predicted to rise this year, but the last projection I saw was about going from just under 3 to 3.3 by year's end. This slide from Keeping Current Manners is projecting an increase, but we really don't know yet. That's going to depend on many factors within the economy. Is there inflation? Is demand still high? Do the weekly earnings continue to increase? So it's a projection, but right now they're holding steady and we haven't really seen an increase so far.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, if you thought about buying, whoa, now is the time if you're going to get a mortgage. Money.
Yep.
Cheryl, it's almost like they're giving us free money. Shh, don't tell anybody.
I would not say that, but I work with several financial planners who recommend getting mortgages and keeping their money invested.
Why not? It's so affordable. So, Cheryl, I know you're getting this question a lot. What about inflation?
There's a lot of talk about potential inflation coming up, and you can see here right now, today, a typical mortgage payment, principal and interest, is at $826, which again, it's been decreasing over the last 3 years. That might not continue to decrease, but I think it might hold steady. And, as of today, the consumer price index core rate fell to 1.4% year over year. So while we're talking about it, it remains flat. It's hasn't started moving up. So I think right now we can't really project inflation as a detracting indicator for home purchases.
Which is awesome. Which is, hey, if this world can stay as it is, it would be amazing, right? Yep. But if it can't, the time to jump is now. I mean, this isn't something you get to do a do-over. For many of us, if we move, this may be our last move, right? Maybe not for folks, but for me, when I move again, unless I'm going to go into a continuing care facility, I'm not doing this again, right?
I just made that decision this summer. So yes, I agree. At some point you decide this is it.
Yeah.
We're finished.
And then for those that are new, like Hannah Wilson on our team, just put an offer in on her first home. So she's pretty excited. She's going to keep doing this. But now this new first property, and my son, Kyle, they just bought a little while ago, they can turn that into a rental in the future, right?
Correct. And that goes again to affordability and opportunity, really, because if you think back, when we were the same age and entering into our first home buying experience, the interest rates were 13%.
Yeah, they were.
Their interest rates, depending on their product, et cetera, are going to be somewhere between 2.75 and let's say 3.3, depending on the borrower. That is amazing. That's really a great point of entry for your first home.
When you said that, Cheryl, I kind of wanted to do that. Hi, my name is Mary, and my interest rate was 13% on my first home. I felt like I'm like defeated. And quite honestly, I thought that was pretty good at the time because that they wwere getting like 18% on some things. So it was just
right. We were
Cheryl,
super excited to be able to buy our first home.
I was super excited. Exactly. Okay. So a couple of questions that we don't have slides on. What if I want to build? Well, it's interesting here in Southwest Florida. We still have a lot of communities in areas that are gated that have developers that are coming in and building, and they're still building. We also have some areas that have more custom homes, and they only do maybe, 5, 10, whatever homes a year. Some of those can't are stopping, Cheryl. They won't take on more projects, and they're not afraid, but they won't price them out until they're ready to go, because their subs are starting to increase their prices. The material has increased. The labor is not increased yet, but I understand, it could follow. And so that, it's a question on that. However, you can still build many times for less than you can buy. So brand new homes in that 3,000, 4,000 square feet in one of our markets on Marco Island are running between $3 million and $4 million. I can build that potentially for 2.5 million, maybe 3, depending on finishes and things that I put in there. And now I have a profit when I close. So there is some benefit to doing some of that. You're taking the risk and the time. The overseer, we build a lot down here. Don't get me wrong. I just did a video today, Cheryl, in front of a lot where they tore it down. Mm-hmm. And then across the street, they're already starting the build process on a vacant lot. And I'm going to follow those 2 properties because they happen to be on my street. And I'm going to follow them as they go through this process, because we have so many people that can't find what they're looking for, and inventory short. So why not build? Your thoughts, Cheryl?
I would agree with all of that, with the understanding they need to know that that's a long-term project. When they're building here on the island, it's not going to be like building in a neighborhood that has many builders that build and have crews going from spot to spot. It'll be a year.
Yeah, they have 18 months for sure. Yeah. And some of them are a little bit over that. So that's a great point, Cheryl. This isn't immediate. Like up north, I built a house and it seemed to go up in 4 months. Now this was, again, Cheryl, a few years ago. Don't tell anybody.
Back in the day.
the day when interest rates were high. So I get this question a lot. And Cheryl, we've had this next slide on here. Is it a good time to sell? Well, let's check this out. Really, quite honestly, what are we doing? We're doing some historic interest rates that are low for people to the buyers to come in. We have, now this is 950 people moving a day to Florida. It was from the New York Times. They talked about it. I don't know if it was just data that they had from like certain areas, but that are moving to Florida. Let me tell you, there's a whole boatload of people that are moving to Florida and wanting to be in our area, and we have low inventory. So Cheryl, that sweet spot in the middle, historic sellers market.
I think so, because you have lots of interest from those borrowers who have more affordability right now to buy, even with a slight increase in homes. You have a low inventory, so a seller is going to potentially get more out of their home. And you have that high demand from the people moving in. So it's a win-win for everybody. The low inventory means slightly higher prices, but the buyers can still afford it. And the sellers are getting a price that maybe another time in history, even within, say, 3 years ago, they would not have been able to get.
Agreed.
So if it really is time for them to sell, because whatever their life change is, maybe they're downsizing, maybe they're upsizing, maybe they're transferring, it's a great opportunity for them to get the price that will allow them to move on as well.
Cheryl, it comes up with a good idea or thought I had was the last, now not all properties are going to go in a short amount of time. Like, right. Around the world, people are like, oh my gosh, they're going with 100 offers in, a day. That's not our market down here. But the 3 of the most recent properties that I negotiated on, and I had the seller, we had multiple offers, 3. Right. And, it's interesting to me because that historic sellers market just got the price up for the sellers that they couldn't even imagine. A month or so ago, we had 7 offers on a lot that sold for 20% more than it was listed for. Now, some might say, well, Mary, you listed it too low. No, I took what had sold, threw it out, kind of projected to what it could be, and it went for another 20% over that. So there are some things that are just going crazy, and some things may sit. Mind you, may not be priced quite right. The market may have had an offer or not. So don't get going in thinking if, you don't choose the Bartos Group that your agent is horrible. It might just be that, the price isn't quite right yet, or may need to sit a little bit. But, the point is that houses do sell right now and quickly.
Absolutely. And it varies from property to property, obviously, property type, property location, the goals of the buyers at the moment. It's going to change a little bit all the time. So not everybody can expect I'm going to get 17 offers on my home if I'm selling.
Without a doubt.
Not,
Without a doubt. So a couple of questions that sellers have, not of that top 7, but where do we go with low inventory? And that's a lot of our primary home owners are really freaking out. Like, oh my gosh, if I put my house on the market and it sells, then what? Well, we can do a lease back. We can, find you a rental, help you down that path so that you can transition until you can find that house and you're not under the gun, right? Appraisals, Cheryl, something near and dear to your heart. What about appraisals? The market's appreciating. What's going to happen?
Well, the appraisals, we in late spring last year, we had some issues with appraisals not keeping, or the comps not keeping up with the sales, and some low appraisals coming in. We're seeing a little bit of that again because we've got another little bit of price increase. But the other thing is in this historic market where we are so busy, appraisers are just swamped. And so you have to understand as a buyer that although maybe you can find a place in enough time and you want to buy in 30 days and the lender can get it done, the appraisers also have to have the time to properly appraise a home and provide an accurate appraisal report. Sometimes that's taking a little longer right now.
I love it from that perspective. I'm going to flip to another perspective, Cheryl. If you decide to sell and if you choose the Bartos Group, which we would love, but you want to make sure whomever you do choose is that they're working with the appraisal, that they're going and they're meeting them, they're giving them comps. The appraiser may choose not to do it, but we have some tricks and trades, if you will, tips and pro tips for getting those appraisals through. We also have some tips if you're a buyer and for helping you get the house based on the appraisal. So if those are interesting to you, make sure you DM us or call us, whatever's best, and we'll kind of help walk you through that process. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, and be sure that your lender understands how to deal with a potentially low appraisal and still allow you to be approved for that home. There are ways to deal with that circumstance. So it takes a real relationship between the agents and the lender and the client to make it all work so the client does not lose the property that they love.
Without a doubt. And to choose an agent or a lender like Cheryl, you want to have a strong lender just like you want to have a strong agent. So again, whether you choose New American Funding through Cheryl or the Bartos Group through one of our great team members, we want to make sure you get that property if you're buying, and secondly, if you're the seller, that it all goes through smoothly and there isn't a lot of gotchas, right? Especially as we're making the market, right now, because there's not a lot of logic behind where the prices go and what's happening. We're just making the market between the sellers and the agents.
Right.
Not in a horrible bad way. That sounds like we're cornering the market some weird way, but we are making the market.
Well, basically, we're adjusting to the conditions of the day, and those conditions throughout the last year and continuing into the first quarter of this year are still changing. They're modifying every day, and you have to be able to adapt and make the process work, even though it may not be the same as it was a month ago.
I love that word, adapt, pivot. If we don't do that for you in this time, and you're not choosing someone that has done it and has had success in doing it, like Cheryl, like the Bartos Group, you want to make sure that you're choosing properly. Because I just heard a woman today in another market, she was talking about it on a conference, on a training I was on, and she said, you have to, in a multi-bid situation, you have to have a really, really strong agent that can walk you through that, whether you're the buyer or the seller, to make that go smoothly and it not to come blowing up in your face.
Right.
So wouldn't you agree that you need some strong people in your
strong, reasoned, level-headed people to work through a negotiation, because it's too easy in this time when everybody's emotional about either the sale or the purchase, to get out ahead of yourself. You really have to sit back and figure out what logically works for everybody.
I love that you said that. Jake, our transaction manager, is phenomenal, and he is incredibly level-headed, and his team, because they take that transaction and make sure it closes, and they really know how to work through those situations calmly. And they distill where we've all been crazed, and some have been locked in a house and lost touch with people, and all the things that COVID has been horrible. These guys have eased it out and made it simple. And for that, I'm ever grateful that that transaction management team on the Bartos Group is there for our customers. I don't always give them the kudos on these things, but they are amazing. Concerns with people in my home, Cheryl. COVID is COVID. More are getting the vaccine, which is awesome, but we're all going to come in masked up. Either if you want gloves, hand sanitizer, booties on, whatever works for you. But keep in mind, we can show virtually a 3D walkthrough, a video. All we need is to get the photographer in, because when we were in lockdown, that's exactly what we did. We were doing virtual open houses. We did 75 in the month of April, and we were selling houses. Shockingly enough,
Right.
We were still selling houses virtually to people. I was showing today on a luxury home with an agent who's virtually walking them through. And if it's the right house, they'll put an offer on it.
Right. And that's continuing through the first quarter for sure. And maybe the second quarter, I think. There are a few more people coming to houses. I know a few more of my clients are coming, but most of them are shopping virtually first through the multitudes of showings. And then they are flying in for the inspection. They're writing a contract that is subject to them seeing the home in person, but they're waiting until that point before they come in to see the house. So they're doing as much as they can online ahead of time. And then they come and look, they go back home, and then they still do an away closing. So they're limiting, they're starting to open up a little bit, but they're limiting how they get to a home and when they choose to see it.
It's so true, because Florida is, and certain parts of Florida in our area, is a lot more open. Our restaurants are at full capacity. Our bars are up and running. We can get our hair done, our nails done, etc. Where some portions of the country, everything's still in a lockdown, and I'm blessed and thankful for that. We've always been, had been able to work during this time where some have not. And we're truly blessed on that. So, we're out in the open, we have fresh air. It's really a great place to be. So Cheryl, the last question I have for everyone is it time to move yet? That is the big, $1 million question. What do you think?
I think if you're a potential first-time home buyer and you're looking for opportunity, it's the time to move. I think if you're a seller looking to downsize and maybe move into a smaller home, I think it's time to sell and move. I think if you're an established homeowner and you want to buy a vacation home, now's the best opportunity you're going to have with the rates and the buying power that we all are seeing increasing.
Yeah. Oh, my dear friend Cheryl Boyle said, oh, the speaker's name is Cheryl as well. I was just curious about it. Low interest rates are encouraging, definitely. She also said, oops, I forgot. But no, we love that. If you have a question and we didn't cover it, because there are many, make sure that you ask below. We'll make sure we keep track of this, whether it's during this live recording or another, from that perspective. But I really think, as Cheryl said, Cheryl and I were at an event last night. Yes, we were together, and we had people around us. And one of our customers said to me, people always miss the opportunity. They look back and go, I should have bought then. Well, highly successful, entrepreneur in the Michigan area. He said, I'm not going to look back and say 2 years from now, I should have bought now, because I know it's a great time. And although he owns property here, he's looking for more property, because, what we're getting, if your money's in the bank, is not all that great right now in interest rates. And the market is doing great, but the interest rates on a loan are phenomenal. So if that's something you thought of, Cheryl, I think don't make this the fish that got away. I know it's tough and this inventory is low, but what do you think, Cheryl?
I think that's absolutely true. And just flip it to the seller. I think you could say the exact same thing to the seller. Don't wait thinking that, well, maybe it'll get better. I don't want people in my home. Be creative and figure that out, because this may be, a once in a cycle opportunity to sell and get the best possible price for your home as well. Mm-hmm. So really, for every dynamic, buyer, seller, those of us in the industry, the opportunities are phenomenal for everyone. And I think it's pretty rare that it falls that way, that everybody is going to benefit from the current set of circumstances.
I love that you said that, because it's usually a buyer's market or a seller's market. And yes, right. It's a seller's market, but low interest rates kind of level the playing field.
Yeah. I think it's just great for everybody.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to go with that quote for the week and the month. It's great for everybody. And everybody gets the prize. If you buy or sell, you're getting a prize. Anyway, I am Mary Bartos with the Bartos Group of Premier Plus Realty, and my wonderful co-host, Cheryl Stokes of New American Funding, for this month in February with a housing update. We wish you well. Make sure you text us, ask us questions below. You can direct message, instant message us. We're happy to answer those questions for you, or give you an opinion on something. We're here for you. So until next time, ciao.
See you in